Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll hear inspirational stories of heart-centered leaders who have awakened to their higher purpose and taken that leap of faith to follow their heart and make an impact in the world. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with your host, Jennifer Spohr.
I'm excited to welcome as a very special guest to the show today, Carol Chapman. She is a consciousness catalyst, author, mind fitness and intuitive coach, and host of the Hearts Rise Up podcast. After years of climbing the corporate ladder, she felt called towards something more meaningful and impactful. At the height of her career, she embraced a radical change by cutting the corporate cord and triggering a journey into a more profound self-discovery of her spiritual path and entrepreneurial exploration. Carol is a certified coach, certified trainer, and coach in emotional intelligence, and is currently pursuing certifications in hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. She serves to catalyze others to awaken and unleash their hidden potential, inner power, and wisdom to live in their most magnificent, heart-centered, highest self. Welcome, Carol. So happy to have you.
Jennifer, it's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. And I got a little tongue-tied there in your bio, so I apologize.
No worries. It's easy to do. I've done it plenty of times myself.
It's real life, right?
That's right.
Carol, I'm so happy to have you. And, we would love to know what inspired you to do the work that you're doing today. Clearly, you're making such a huge impact.
Well, that's a great question. And I think it really stems from the type of person or personality I've always been. I've always wanted to help others. I tend to be very generous of my time and spending time with others and just being a good listener. And I wanted to really make a difference in the world. I spent so many years in corporate, and quite honestly, I forced myself to basically fit in. And to be honest, I felt like I was beating my head against the wall. I think because it's part of who I am. I'm very much a reserved introvert with a strong intuitive sense. And being in the corporate world, you have to be so extroverted and everything is just like so there's so much energy. And my generation, I was conditioned to be, even though I was, an introvert and very intuitive and highly sensitive, I was conditioned to be very achievement oriented, despite the fact that I had this personality. So it was a tug of war within me. And although I was climbing the corporate ladder, I really felt unfulfilled. And, at the point where I did cut the corporate cord, I was just absolutely exhausted. And it was all self-induced. It was all self-induced because of my work ethic and wanting to be the best that I could be. But I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in me. While I was in corporate, I used to be referred sort of as the entrepreneur, because I was always bringing new ideas and ways of doing things to the table. And what I found was that not everyone, was ready for those ideas, or maybe I was a little ahead of my time, or I was maybe trying to push a little too hard. And then finally it just got to a point where, when I go back to what I was saying earlier about being my head against the wall, I just didn't feel like I was making a difference. So I thought, well, maybe I should just leave corporate. And it had been actually for years. I was thinking about it and had left a couple of times, but I went into consulting. But I finally did leave corporate. And I did have a couple of entrepreneurial consulting ventures after I left, because that was really kind of a transition and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I sort of found what I wanted to do. I thought my calling at that point was I want to work on the outside in helping organizations from a consulting standpoint to build their brands from the inside out and do a better job of walking the talk. But also during that time, I sort of still felt like I was beating my head against the wall. And so I became a certified coach and trainer as well, trainer and coach in EQ, emotional intelligence. And so for me, having left corporate was a series of explorations. And one thing that was always in my life was personal development. And so I've always been a long time learner, always wanting to learn and grow as much as I could, and a long time meditator as well since my 20s. And so through a series of just exploring different things, because I spent 8 years just in one entrepreneurial venture and then moved on, and then it was a series of things. So it takes time to get to where for me, it took a lot of soul searching and a lot of trial and error. I finally stumbled across my true calling, which was sort of right in my face. I didn't see it. And that's when I co-founded Hearts Rise Up to help other people, elevate their state of being, their world, and from the inside out so they can flourish emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And that's when I had the opportunity to leave corporate, I did take a deep dive in finding more of who I was. And I did have some very profound spiritual experiences just in terms of my meditations and the things that I was doing. So it's been an evolution really over several years, but that's really what has inspired me, is to make a difference, to help others. And I think that's why I was probably drawn to, coaching and emotional intelligence and really helping others to find their way in the world, and helping others to go on the inside and take the time to understand who you are. Because once you understand who you are and what's important to you, then you're better prepared to make decisions in your life that are going to fulfill you. So I know that's a sort of a roundabout answer. I hope I answered your question.
You did, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack from that answer, a lot of good wisdom nuggets, right? A couple of things that I wanted to just go back and revisit from what you just shared is, there are so many people, and myself included, who were in a corporate environment and left, due to that discontent. And the discontent that we feel in our jobs simply indicates that, our body, our soul is telling us that it's time to make a change. But so many people actually live throughout their entire lives being in jobs and careers where they are feeling discontent and unhappy. And it's because traditional society teaches many of us that there is this cookie cutter way to living life. And that's just not the case. I mean, each one of us, deserves to feel joy and fulfillment and happiness in every area of our lives, and our career isn't excluded from that. And something else that you said that was also really key is you said that your, process of kind of finding your higher calling or your purpose was that it evolved. And that's true. I mean, each one of us has a greater work that we're meant to do, but a big part of finding purpose is living with purpose, I think.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because you can find purpose in anything that you're doing. You just have to be in tune with it. I'm making sense there. I can say even the jobs that I had in corporate, I was in tune with a lot of them. I was in alignment because I was fulfilling some things inside me that did fulfill me. But at the end of the day, I was expending more energy than what I was able to recharge energy, and it was really sucking the life out of me. And then I realized that I wasn't really fulfilling my purpose. I felt like there was a higher calling for me. But I think it's interesting that you say that about purpose, because purpose is something that you can find each and every day, even in a task that you're doing. It's just how you perceive it and how you approach it.
Absolutely. And then, there are those people, and I've been in a similar place, to yours, where I started feeling that calling to do something more, to do something to make a bigger impact. And when we feel that way, we're meant to explore that. And often that greater work that we're meant to do, I've found, is something that can often seem very common sense to us, but it's really not to others.
That's right. And sometimes you have to spend time with yourself to get to know yourself. And I think there's a lot of people that don't do enough of that because they're so focused. And I found myself not spending as much time with myself. I wasn't doing enough, internal work to, move my life forward in a direction I felt was fulfilling and impactful for others, and fulfilling for me as well.
Absolutely. Every experience in our lives, which we've already sort of alluded to, shapes who we are. Every experience serves a purpose. Is there a particular experience in your life that you feel has been most significant in shaping who you've become today?
Well, I would probably, there's a couple of experiences that really, really stand out. One, in my early childhood, I was in first grade, and I was living in England. My father was in the Air Force, so, I was an Air Force brat. And I had a very traumatic experience with my teacher. At that time, I had a hearing problem, but it wasn't detected. No one knew that I really had a hearing problem. But I wasn't doing well in school, and this teacher didn't really understand me, and she really didn't have the compassion to understand me. She was very belittling and demeaning to me. She was like the Wicked Witch of the East. It was like I was constantly ridiculed in class. I mean, that was years and years and years ago, but what kind of role model is that? So it was very, very traumatic for me. And it wasn't until I got back to the States, and actually even before that, I mean, it affected me so terribly that I didn't want to go to school. I would, make out like I was sick. My brother had to walk me to and from class. I was so fearful. And it wasn't until I got back to the States that they realized that I had a hearing problem. And, once we took care of that, I had some, surgery. I had my tonsils and my adenoids out. And so it took me a couple of years to really get some confidence back in myself. And I had, fortunately, a couple of really wonderful teachers, totally opposite from that first grade teacher, that really lifted me up, and just really, and my parents were very, very supportive. And so from that point on, I was actually bullied by a teacher, an adult. But from that point forward, I vowed I would never be bullied again. I would never let anyone else be bullied. And I would be kind to myself, and I would be kind to others. And I would be very aware of how others, they're the things that what you say and what you do, and really, words can have a significant influence on people, just words, the language that you use with people. So I've always been very, very conscious of how I interact with people, and am very kind and compassionate. And from that point forward, that it was an adverse situation, but I turned it into a positive. And I think that's why today, and why, over the course of my lifetime, I have always been there for others, always wanted to help others, boost their self-esteem, give them help them find within themselves the tools and the confidence and the energy and the belief in themselves that they can do anything, and to not allow others to dictate how you should feel or what you should do, or decisions that you make, because really the only person that knows what's right for you is you. And so that shaped my world at that point in time, and over time it's shaped me into who I am today. I feel like it's made me a better person.
I wholeheartedly agree. I believe that our most challenging experiences are what end up turning into our greatest strengths, our greatest gifts. We have to experience a certain level of contrast in order to have clarity in our lives, in terms of who we are. And I'm sorry that you had to experience that. I am so glad that you shared that story, though, because when we talk about bullying, we hear a lot of stories about, being bullied as a child, right? But I also had an experience where I was bullied by a teacher, and it really stuck with me. My algebra teacher, math was never really my, strong suit, I guess you would say. There were other subjects that I enjoyed more in school. And so one day I received a perfect score on an assignment in class, and the teacher said to me, well, you better frame this, because that's the only one that you're probably ever going to have.
Oh my goodness.
And so even today, right, to know that I'm almost 46 years old and I remember exactly what he said from an assignment. It's unfortunate that there are people out there in roles that have such a strong influence over our children, and they themselves don't enjoy their job, right?
No.
Not all teachers, it's unfortunate, but not all teachers enjoy what they're doing. So I just really resonate with what you're saying. And yeah, it's important for everybody, adults and children, to know that other people don't define you. Happiness is an inside job.
Right. And happiness really is unique to each person as well, based on what makes them happy. And the only way to find that out is by getting in touch with yourself and being true to yourself, and not allowing others to, like you said, define who you are or dictate to you what you should do, or, strong arm you into doing something, or make you feel guilty. I mean, that's the worst. Making you feel guilty. And I feel very fortunate that my parents encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. There was no discouragement. Whatever I wanted to do, they were supportive, and they were 100% behind me. And I think today, you don't always have that. Actually, you don't have that. A lot of our children today are really pressured because of what society, or what they think, or what others expect of them, and oftentimes miss their calling, and they end up, working in roles or jobs or opportunities that really don't serve them as well, if they had really kind of listen to their own true feelings and what makes sense for them, what really resonates with them.
Carol, what would be your number one piece of advice for other people who are out there right now who are at a crossroads and feeling that call to do more? What action could they take to move forward today?
Well, I think spend time with yourself. Get to know yourself. I think oftentimes people don't spend enough time on the inner, and it could be, as simple as taking a walk in nature, or it could be sitting down and meditating, or quiet, or just closing your eyes and lying down and quieting your mind for 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's about getting in tune with your own intuitive guidance rather than seeking looking externally. Go within and trust your own heart, because everyone has special gifts, and we have to explore these different avenues that give us joy, that make us happy. And so if we can find our sweet spot and allow things to sort of unfold more organically, don't force it. And I think there's another thing that could be helpful too. Many people are so focused on doing more, and you're never going to get it all done. So a good friend provided some advice to me recently. He said, do less, and be more. And it really, really resonated with me. And so I've taken that on board these days, and I'm taking the opportunity to think of life, and what I'm doing is, and maybe this will help others. It's not about the goal or destination. It really is about the journey, and be present with the journey. Take the time to be in the journey rather than focused on, the goal of the journey or where you're going to end up.
That is sage advice, Carol. Carol, where can someone find you if they want to reach out and connect with you?
They can reach out to me via my website at heartsriseup.com. That's HEARTSRISEUP.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, and it's Chapman Carol. And there's also I have a Facebook community called Hearts Rise Up Community. And that's pretty easy to find. And also Instagram, hearts_rise_up. And I also do have a free gift if anyone is interested in guided meditations, because that's one of the things that Hearts Rise Up produces, and is in the process of producing more of those guided meditations. So I have a guided meditation plus a journal. It's been professionally mixed and recorded as well as composed. And so they can find that at heartsriseup.com, middle of the homepage, or heartsriseup.com/access-your-inner-wisdom, access your inner wisdom. And so it's a nice tool for people who need a little bit of a kickstart and taking the time to go within. This is guided meditations are the best way, in my opinion, to start meditating, because it gives you something to focus on. So that's that. If anyone who's interested, they can try that as well.
And we will absolutely include those links in the show notes as well for anyone who's interested.
Great. That would be awesome.
Carol, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's always a joy to speak with you, and I'm so grateful that we've connected.
Likewise. And I so wish the best of success with your podcast and what you're doing, because you are truly a gem in this world, and we need more people like you, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel the same about you.
Thank you.
I just love what you're doing, and I'm so grateful for what you're doing. We need more and more people out there, speaking their truth and following their joy. And when we do that, we inspire others to rise up and do the same.
And that's so true. And it really does make a difference. Thank you again for bringing me on the show. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Awake and On Purpose podcast. Please visit us and subscribe to the podcast at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can connect with your higher purpose and take that leap of faith to make your impact in the world, visit us at jenniferspor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join our email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.